If you're buying a house, did you know that there are 3 times that you can negotiate the sales price of that home during the transaction? And that's why, as a buyer, you really want to make sure that you hire a real estate agent who not only knows his stuff, but is going to be able to negotiate on your behalf. Now, I'm going to use a case study that breaks down this example perfectly as far as those 3 different phases. My name is Jarett. I'm a real estate agent with Berkshire Hathaway, HomeServices, California Properties. I recently just sold a property in Bonita Canyon in Newport Beach for $6.6 million, and this house was originally listed for $7.5 million. So there's a few factors that I want to break down without going into too much depth, but to cover the main topic of this video. But when you're buying a house, the first step phase is super obvious, and that's obviously your purchase price. So in this case, the house was listed for like 7.5 in that range, and then they did a price reduction, so it was listed for just under $7 million. Well, let me backtrack. Because of the type of agent that I am, especially when working with buyers, I really want to make sure that we have the clear picture, not just making a decision off of emotion. So there's a couple of things that I wanted to factor. So I did a full breakdown. I made a video just like this. It's a private video for my clients. And when you look at the community itself, especially in the last 2 years, because there's not a whole lot of sales in that track, I mean, the average price per square foot really made sense around $6 million when you did the math. But when you zoom out, the average price per square foot was over like $1,600 per square foot, which meant that house was justified at about $7 to $7.2 million. So they weren't priced outrageously either. They were priced very accordingly to what the market currently is. It's just if you were a micro zoom on the community versus looking at the bigger picture, which is why you want to look at the bigger picture. But nonetheless, the first phase or time that you can negotiate price is your purchase, your offer price. So in this case, the house was listed for just under $7 million. We offered $5.9 million because when we did the math for the community itself, based on the past sales in the past 2 years, that was justified. But again, just because you make an offer, sellers don't need to respond. They don't need to counter it. They don't even need to acknowledge it. So we got no response to the 5.9 because again, they're listed for just under $7 million and they were listed for over $7.5 million when they first came on the market. And there's another home in the community at the time that was listed for over $8 million. So 5.9 to them was too low. They didn't counter. They felt it wasn't worth it. My buyers, I did another video breaking down, looking at the bigger picture to look at, hey, look, when we look at the bigger picture, the average price per square foot is over $1,600. If we came to this price point, we would still be about $1,300 and change, which is still better than what the market currently is. So you're still getting a great deal. And if I was to zoom out and look at the past 5 years for the community exactly, I was able to average that the community saw a 4.44% year-over-year appreciation. And if we did the math, this house in 8 years would be worth about $8 million. So what would the consequence be, I guess, of not getting this house over about $100,000, which is a lot of money, don't get me wrong. But there's a couple of factors that I want to look at in the sense of there's nothing else in the market that checks the box. It's a brand new construction. Everything else that is of the same size and bedrooms is a lot more money. And that's kind of one of the things that I want to look at is what would the impact be if we continue to rent, which is completely fine. I'm okay with waiting so we can find the perfect property. But even for the rentals, your current house is too small, and there's other factors that I'm looking at, right? So when we looked at that, it made sense for them to go ahead and come back. So now we're in a negotiation, and you're able to negotiate. And obviously, we went from 5.9 to 6.6 to 6.2, 6.4, 6.5. And the whole time we're going back and forth. And this is a single counter, but we were able to negotiate that price and we agreed on 6.6. And the reason how we came to 6.6 also allowed us to be an all cash offer that was apparently higher. But that's a video for another time. So that's phase one. And we negotiated, we went back and forth like 5 different times in that case, or in this last escrow that we did. But we came to an agreement on the price and we opened up escrow. Well, the second phase that we were able to negotiate price was during the home inspection. During the home inspection, there's a handful of things that came up, which is not uncommon. Every house is going to have something. We were seeking a credit of a good amount, and we ended up getting a good amount. Not what we wanted, but we got half of what we were requesting, and I'm going to keep that information private just for privacy purposes. But that was a credit that they were able to get as a non-recurring closing cost, which gave them more money. So that was the second time that we were able to negotiate price for my buyers, or that I was able to negotiate the price for my buyers. And so that's phase 2. Phase 3 is really not a phase that you want to be in, and the reason why I say that is because it could literally cost your deal, the whole entire transaction to fall apart. But you could still save it, and that's the appraisal. So unless you're all cash, you don't need an appraisal, but if you're a loan, which we were in this case, you need an appraisal, and especially on homes that are of a certain caliber, and this house was over $6 million, we were 6.6, so it actually needs 2 appraisals, which that's a video for another time. But both appraisals needed to come in at list price or higher. If it came lower, that was the issue. Now, that was not an issue because it appraised for value, so that's great. So my buyers had nothing to worry about there. But let's say that we were in contract for 6.6, and let's say that house appraised for 6.5. Well, this is the third phase that a buyer could renegotiate sales price, which means that we would have had to negotiate for 6.6 to be reduced to 6.5. And that's the only way that the buyers would be able to get a loan in that situation. Otherwise, they would have to pay the difference of that $100,000 out of their own pocket if they want to keep that deal alive. And if the seller's not willing to drop the price, if the buyer's not willing to pay out of pocket, well, you could get a second appraisal, and sometimes that will get the job done and get the house to appraise at what the purchase price or sales price is under contract, but not always. And if it doesn't, and no parties are budging, that deal could fall apart. But that is technically your third phase. We didn't have that, thank God. We closed, they're happy, they moved in, and I couldn't be any happier for them. But yeah, those are the 3 phases. So your purchase price, when you're making an offer, when you get a home inspection and you get a request for repairs, but no, sellers do not have to respond. They do not have to do any repairs, because in California, you're selling as is. And then the third phase is if the house doesn't appraise, which is, again, not really a phase that you want to be in. So, but those are the 3 different areas or phases that a buyer can negotiate price when buying a house here in California.